Sunday. You're at this time to hear 3 questions being read out, and I suppose I should read out 3 answers. Seems like a fair trade, doesn't it? And it's an Edward Tophat special. Yes. Question 1. If you could be a writer on Thunderbirds or Go, don't give me ideas, and you could adapt a classic Thunderbirds episode into a new episode, which one would you choose and how would you adapt it? Ooh, that is intriguing. Episode. There's been quite a few classic episodes that have had elements incorporated, like Terror in New York City, Trapped in the Sky, and using elements from Ricochet and Sun Probe. Yeah, that is over. I'd actually like to see. How the episode Atlantic Inferno could be done. How I would go about adapting it, though, that's a different set of circumstances. It'd certainly be interesting to see how you would contain an inferno that occurs on the ocean floor. Certainly be more, more for something for Thunderbird 4 to do, although how things have gone for the first half of Season 2 thus far, it's been kind of a, trying to figure out which episode is going to have Thunderbird 3 one week, which is going to be Thunderbird 4, and, each week you're kind of second-guessing how it's going to be. It's definitely one I could see Scott being more used out in the open, because if those that recall Atlantic Inferno, Scott was left in charge by Jeff, and Alan was sent out to be the pilot for Thunderbird 1 and with the mobile control unit for National Rescue, but with Thunderbird 5 having a much more expanded role, basically having a mobile control unit up in space. And the fact that Jeff has been missing in action for an undetermined amount of time, Scott doesn't need to sit at the base for that, because Grandma could easily take over some monitor duties and what have you. So, I don't know, but it would be interesting to see how Scott would be more interactive out on the accident site, as opposed to relaying instructions from his father's desk. I'd probably have it a little bit more action-orientated. Not to say there was a lack of action in that episode, but I would definitely have something that would get the pulses racing. Make of that what you will. Question 2. Have you seen the trailer for Cars 3? Do you like or dislike the franchise? I love Cars. I think the way that they did the original movie 11 years ago, it kind of reminds me of Doc Hollywood a little bit, which was an early 90s Michael J. Fox movie in which he had to commit to a contractual obligation with Universal Pictures because he signed like a 3 to 4 picture deal. And Doc Hollywood is the story of a plastic surgeon who crashes his car out in the sticks and basically has to work off the damage until he's actually allowed to go. And with Cars, it's pretty much copy and paste with that, except the plastic surgeon is a racing car that roughs up her neighborhood unintentionally and has to work off the damage. I really like the moral message that was in the first movie, in that not everything is all about the glory. Sometimes it's nice to slow down and actually cater to the necessities of the local community, just to be able to help them out, and actually realizing, hey, you don't have to be all this and that all the time. You can actually, look beyond your own dreams and actually realize the dreams of others. Cars 2, I was not a huge fan of. I mean, I was glad to see a sequel, but I didn't feel like they need to make Mater the the center story of that movie. I felt that was kind of a wasted use. I was glad to hear Michael Caine in the movie, but I felt like it was one of those stories it could have served better for something else and written better. Whereas Cars 3, one thing I've learned over the last 10 to 15 years is that movie 3 in a series tends to have more in common with number 1. And Lightning McQueen, from what I've seen from the trailer for the third movie, he's kind of at that point where Doc Hudson was when he had a crash that pretty much finished his career off. Yet I think the character, Lightning is looking at it from the perspective of, okay, I know I'm a little bit more of a distinguished vehicle now. How can I be smarter to do this? Because the car that I'm facing to take the title from, he's basically a younger version of himself with the attitude and the cockiness, but Lightning has the experience. So I think this movie is more about using your savviness and not so much what you have available or what you don't have available anymore. But then again, this can be just as dangerous as your physical capabilities. So I'm hoping number 3 will redeem the franchise, although it's, they've left it a bit of a while. But I suppose that's been a good thing in some ways, because it kind of makes people not necessarily forget about Cars 2, but it moves away long enough to have that much of a distance. If that answers your question. Question 3. Have you seen Arrow, Friends, The Office, USA, and How I Met Your Mother? I've seen the first full season of Arrow. I love it. But I felt like it borrows way too heavily from Batman Begins. And this is a major problem I have with most superhero movies. And obviously, by extension, superhero TV shows now. I mean, don't get me wrong, Stephen Amell is great as Oliver Queen. But here's the thing, in the intro for each episode, you don't need to keep telling his origin story. It's kind of like the biggest problem I have with a lot of Batman movie series now. It's like, when they have to tell the origin story, it's like, stop. Just stop. We know Batman's origin. Granted, with Batman v Superman, they told the origin story within the opening credits, and that was like 3 minutes best. But it comes across as a little bit insulting when we have to endure, yet again, when most 5-year youngs know Batman's origin throughout. And it's the same context with the Spider-Man origin. So it's like, no origin story. We've seen this with Spider-Man 1 and Amazing Spider-Man. No more. Just go straight in. Yeah, getting off on a tangent. With Arrow, don't get me wrong, I like the tone of the show, whereby it's a guy who's basically trying to make amends for being an ass, how he was before he disappeared for 5 years on the island. But it would have been better if it tried to find its own voice and its own identity, and not, leech off what Christopher Nolan had done with the Dark Knight trilogy. Now, and as I've said time and time before, the tone that they used for that, it suits Batman to a T. But the problem is, people keep copying that formula and that template for their own respective franchise, and it's like, no. Find your own voice. Find your own identity. Make homages and references and say, this is what inspired you to do it this way, but do it your way. Have your fresh spin on things, because there's a reason people don't like copycats. Because you're taking someone else's work and trying to pass it off as your own. I mean, one of the things that I've seen a lot of fan fiction writers try to do is, whenever they try to do, I've seen people that have written fan fiction with Knight Rider, Transformers, or, Turtles and Ghostbusters, which is actually a thing now by ID Comics. Thank you very much, by the way. That's a childhood dream come true. Is, you keep a tone and a direction that, old school fans are familiar with, but you take it in a direction that they can go and think, that could work. I mean, one crossover I'd like to see happen in the future is Thunderbirds and Knight Rider, because why not? I mean, there's one guy that's done a crossover with Sonic the Hedgehog and Halo. And those are two franchises that you wouldn't think would go with each other, but the guy has written it so well, you think, well done. So, yeah, a long tangent with that. I love Friends. I think it's one of those, I think it's more like a timeless sitcom, because it's basically reflecting how a lot of people were within the mid-90s to the mid-2000s. People that are going through their own everyday problems, and they all just try to help each other. And there are some people that narc on it, that's fine. I personally don't give a damn, because at the end of the day, I like what I like, and too damn bad if you don't like it. Because at the end of the day, if you like something and no one else doesn't, the only opinion that matters is your own. So if someone says, oh, your comic book series that you read is crap, it's like, okay, I don't care. I love it. Yeah. I've watched bits of The Office US. I'm just going to say this right now. I didn't care for the UK Office, so I'm not going to really make time for the US Office, because I'm not really a fan of these sort of sitcoms where you're kind of looking for the joke and you don't know where to find it. That's just me. I've heard about How I Met Your Mother. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, I like Neil Patrick Harris, but I haven't seen enough of it to merit an opinion, so I can't fully answer your question on that. I hope that answers your question. So, those have been your 3 questions for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the answers. If you'd like to ask me more questions, then the usual shtick applies. Leave a question in the comment section below, whether this is on YouTube, Dynamic Night, or any of my social media outlets, with the hashtag AskTheKnight, and I'll see you next time.